Is the record of the trial public and are journalists allowed? Because what if Jimmy Lai's lawyers makes really, really good points, right? That kind of undermine what the judges are trying to do. I mean, I guess that could be, it's not that the judges won't overrule him, but simply that it'll be embarrassing.
Well, I think like anyone with any logical thinking would think that they have to let people report, right? For instance, the Alliance group, which is the group that commemorate June 4th, we mentioned about Hang Tong Chow or Chow Hang Tong. Now, Shirley, you mentioned that she won the case, but it's not really the case of there were a few cases with Hang Tong Chow, Albert Ho, and Lee Chuk Yen. They were alleged to be in violation of the NSL. That's sedition and secession. That's even a bigger crime. So the lower court usually, even if they say, "Hey, she is not guilty," and when this NSL main trial happened, I have a strong doubt that they could escape even more punishment. But I don't know, like Matt, your point is whether they could report. Logically, I would think so. I mean, if otherwise, it would look like a kangaroo court, 110%, right?
So now it only looks like a kangaroo court, 100%.
Yeah, right. Already.
I'm curious, Ed, as you're a hedge fund manager. We talk a lot about how the national security law has obviously changed the civil society of Hong Kong. I'm curious how you've seen that change sort of the economic realm of Hong Kong, because Hong Kong was a very economically unique city in Asia, especially for China. What's changed since the national security law?
I think after the 20th planetary session in Beijing, with Xi Jinping getting all the power and with Jiang Zemin's death and everything, some people say it's he will get worse for Xi Jinping, but another thinking is now all the enemies, now it's eliminated, so to speak. He should not have that much of a tighter grip for Hong Kong, because they use Hong Kong as a place for washing the money. Definitely. All these Russian oligarchs, the yachts are parked in Hong Kong. And, a lot of things, like in Hong Kong is different from when we were there. Or I should say when you were there. I left only last year, a year and a half ago. But, people in general, they are not happy because suddenly, even now that they have this almost close to like a 0+0 COVID policy, every single day they still block off a certain area and then they say, hey, we want to get these PCR tests. So it's a way to tell people that those in power, they're in control. And it's not really the PCR test, honestly, I think they want to do. And then it hurts businesses. And then, you have been to Lan Kwai Fong, of 4 of us. Now it's dead right now. And then the thing that's bad about the whole thing is Next Media is a publicly listed company. And then in less than 12 months, they raided the place 2 times with over a few hundred policemen. Basically, they let the Next Media stock stop trading. And of course, over 90% of the stock is owned by Mr. Lai himself. But then it's not fair to the smaller investors. So if I were trying to go for an IPO or get, a shell company and have my company relisted, I would think twice whether I want to do it in Hong Kong, because there's no safety. Even though they claim there's a basic law, they're using common law and everything. And you could see people are really, really crazy. And then it's run by a policeman who said that since he was a child, he read Runway Bao and then Tai Kung Bao, these pro-communist propaganda newspaper in Hong Kong. So If he said that, that means that when he was still getting his salary under the British rule, he still read these very leftist newspaper to brainwash himself. So what a disgrace.
So when we were in Hong Kong 3 years ago, we went to one of your seminars, I remember, and you were talking about, like, you were basically talking to other investors about how to move their money out of Hong Kong, and that they should be starting to move their money from Hong Kong banks to foreign banks. Is that process happening now? Is it accelerating? Is it harder to do?
Oh, I would say it's not just me saying it. It's because everyone is asking about how to do it, right? You know, the global banking system in Hong Kong is still intact. First of all, because they need Hong Kong to have the so-called money movement. But then, I give a very good example. This is like a friend, but also more from the pro-establishment side, meaning that they are more clinging to Beijing. So in businesses, you will run into people you still call so-called friends, but even though we a lot of things we don't see eye to eye. This is how he told me, deep down from the bottom of his heart, because he also got a foreign passport, and he said that based on his net worth, if let's say this guy got 100 million Hong Kong, so it's like 12 million US, only 5 to 7% remain in Hong Kong. So what does that mean? 5% is 5 million Hong Kong, 7% is 7 million Hong Kong, which is less than 1 million, right? So that means almost all of the assets are located overseas, whether it be buying real estate and also just sitting cash outside of Hong Kong, whether it's sitting in, let's say, an offshore account in Canada or Singapore. So they don't really have the confidence in Hong Kong. So with 5 to 7 million Hong Kong, which is like less than 1 million US, what can he do? Now, I won't tell you in great detail, but this guy is like older than me. So assuming he is still got 30 more years to live, and if he still likes Hong Kong that much, he could rent, using his 5 to 7% of his net worth. But boy, the guy doesn't believe in the system anymore, because anything could be like an alleged violation of the NSL, and even the pro-Beijing business people, they are concerned. This is how bad, after the implementation, after the enactment in end of June 2020, because this is a misuse and abuse of the power when they say, hey, this person might be in violation of the NSL, and then they confiscate your passport. And even I can tell the three of you, and I'm sure you read it in the news too, those who came out clean, or those who were arrested at the Polytechnic University or Chinese University, after they dropped down their Hong Kong ID card number, 2-3 years later they go back, and then they charge them with another violation, and then they take their passports, so they cannot leave Hong Kong. So this is how, if you lose your freedom to leave Hong Kong freely, that means you are caged in, whether you are inside prison like Joshua, Benny Tai, or some of the legislators, or you're in a bigger prison like in Hong Kong. That's the way I look at it.
You were talking about people getting their money out of Hong Kong, and these finance people not having confidence in Hong Kong to keep as a place to keep your money. Hong Kong had like this big meeting of, I don't know if it was bankers or finance people back in last month in November, and the message that they were seemed to be trying to push is that Hong Kong is back. It's a place to come invest again. Do you think that that's actually the reality of what these bankers are saying or are thinking, or is this just something that they're saying to maybe get on the good side of the Chinese authorities or Hong Kong authorities?
Now, start with the regulatory perspective first. In the US, you have the SEC, Securities and Commission, right? The regulator. before all the regulators, the CEO used to be a non-Chinese because Hong Kong it's an international city. So after a few months, Ashley Alder was the CEO of the SFC, the Securities and Futures Commission. There was so-called global search for months. They put an ad in the Economist magazine and whatnot, right? Up till now, the job is still vacant. And I believe they will find someone who is pro-Beijing or non-Chinese to get that role. And then put it this way, the chairman of the regulatory body, now it's a member of the MPCSC. You don't want this type of political affiliation. That means you have to kowtow, right? So if I were an asset management firm, a Fidelity or Franklin Templeton, suddenly, if you want to get a certain license, usually you just go through the procedures. You don't have to rub shoulders with the regulator. But then I'm afraid that that culture of so-called, you don't have to befriend or, as I said, rub shoulders will be changed. And then, especially for ListCo, meaning publicly listed company, there are many different ways to punish to punish a ListCo. Take a look at Jack Ma and some of the other guys in mainland China. Some of them are party members, of course, right? So everything has to toe along the party line. But in Hong Kong, before it was talking about being dynamic and being, from nothing to making something, right? But now, with all the different, with all the changes that's going on, I see asset management firms, hedge funds and long-only funds, they look at Singapore as the place for their regional headquarters. And they're just keeping the so-called operational people in Hong Kong, right? If they want the license. But honestly speaking, key executives definitely no. And second thing, it's you mentioned about that meeting with all the so-called leaders come to Hong Kong for like 3 days, and then they say Hong Kong is back. I don't see Hong Kong is back unless like you have the NSL detainees set free, because they are the best candidates, honestly, to run for chief executive. That could be Jimmy Lai. You have the best candidate to run for a chief justice. That could be Benny Tai. The best people inside DOJ could be Hang Tong Chow, but you just lock them up because of political differences. Even for the youth program, you could have a guy like Joshua Wong, right? Because he understands youth. You don't need all these, like people who pretend to be so loyal to Xi and also to his doctrine, and to in order to stay in power. I mean, Hong Kong, it's dying. It's dying slowly, and it's just not me saying. It's also the pro-Beijing guys with foreign passports. I mentioned, like using how much of your net worth is put in Hong Kong. That's a very good indicator.